I know you're more awake than that. Let's try that again. How are you doing today? Awesome, I see everybody's caffeinated. Good to know. My name's Christy. I'm one of your city coordinators along with Matt over there in the back. Welcome to 1 Million Cups. 1 Million Cups is an educational program provided by the Kauffman Foundation, which gives startups and entrepreneurs the opportunity to pitch to a live audience. Each presenter today is going to have 6 minutes to pitch and 20 minutes of Q&A. But before we get started, I definitely want to give a big shout out to our venue, the Deck. For those of you who haven't been here before, there will be a free tour afterwards, but give a round of applause to the Deck. We can't do this without them. We also want to thank our vendors today, Kurtu, for providing awesome, delicious Transylvanian treats. Round of applause for Kurtu. And a round of applause to our coffee sponsor, House of Genius, keeping us caffeinated. Right on. Well, but I guess we're ready. Oh yeah, one more thing, I forgot. We have a 1 Million Cups app that is available now. So if you guys want to check it out, you can go ahead and open up your app store and search for 1 Million Cups. If you check in, you'll have the opportunity to give feedback to the presenters. So but you have to check in first. So you download the app, check into Dallas, and then choose the presenter and give them feedback with a little survey, 10 questions, something like that. Cool, right on. So we're ready to get started. We have a tradition here at the Deck where each person that comes on stage receives a standing ovation to help calm their nerves. So can everybody please stand up and give Tempgn a big round of applause.
Hello everybody, thank you all so much for coming. My name is Chris Ellis. I'm the co-founder of Tempgn, the easiest way for doctors to find reliable temps. So to get started, let me tell you a little bit about the problem. Imagine you're a private practice physician or dentist and one of your employees calls in sick. Alright, you are left with basically 3 choices. You can try to make do without them, but that will likely result in lost time, having to reschedule some patients, things like that. You can try to find somebody yourself, but on short notice, it's really difficult to do unless you have an extensive network of people that are available to work at any given moment. Or you can use a staffing agency. But the issue with staffing agencies today, they're traditionally notoriously difficult to work with. You'll find that staffing agencies are extremely frustrating because in multiple instances, you have to reach out to several just to find out anybody can come fill the position in the last notice. If they can find you somebody, it's extremely expensive. You're paying an arm and a leg for that type of last-minute service, and a lot of times you won't even find somebody in the same day, let alone the day after. It usually takes a couple days for staffing agencies to find temporary placements, so you have to schedule in advance. You might not always have that type of notice. So that's where Tempgn comes in. What we've done is created a solution that allows employers to put in a request for a temp, and we immediately text message notify all nearby candidates. So it's extremely easy for our temps to extremely easy for our employers to reach out to multiple temps at the same time, see if anybody's available, and as soon as they are able to immediately, as soon as the employer is able to reach out to the temps, then they're immediately able to get in contact with multiple people at the same time. As soon as one temp accepts the job, we put them in contact with the employer, and that temp now has a job, and that employer now find a reliable temp for that day. So what we do is we essentially match with a big pool of pre-screened candidates that at any given moment the employer can put in a request. We reach out to our existing pool of candidates to see who's available. Here's a few screenshots of what our solution looks like from the employer's perspective. It's very straightforward. They nearly indicate who they're looking for when they need them. From the temp's perspective, they can go on call if they're available, ready to work, or off duty if they don't want to receive the text message alerts. And then we have an example text message, what the temps will receive when they're on call and a job opportunity pops up. And then a couple other features that we also included in our app, we're allowed for temps to be hired directly through the platform. So if an employer particularly likes working with somebody, they can extend an offer to begin negotiations for a full-time position through the app. In addition, we also allow for reviews and ratings on both the temps and the employer side of things to make sure everybody's, we're keeping the integrity of the app high, with making sure that everybody involved is enjoying themselves. And then the opportunity for our platform is extremely substantial. Healthcare staffing alone is an $11 billion industry. It is expected by 2022, 1 in 8 people are going to be in the healthcare sector. From a job perspective, that just leaves many more openings for everyone from a small private practice clinic to hospitals looking for additional temps. We launched a little less than 2 months ago, and as soon as we launched at the Southwest Dental Conference in Dallas, where we got a good amount of people signed up from the very beginning. And since then, we've had our employers re-request temps. We've had temps accept multiple shifts. So we've gotten very good feedback, and people seem to be responding very well. Our customers have been giving us very good positive feedback since their launch. Our team is phenomenal. We have Harold Kamara, the dentist who owns 3 practices in the area. Myself, I had healthcare consulting experience for 4 years. I got a master's in healthcare management. And our full stack developer's got 6 years experience. He's the one that's put this all together. Our roadmap. We currently have a web application, and we're working exclusively within a dental vertical. Our goal is to expand from dentistry into other medical arenas. We're specifically starting with nurses, and we're working on physical therapy, speech therapy, things of that nature. We want to get our web app converted to a native app, or get our native app completed by the end of this year. So that's what we're working towards. And then once we figure out, we work out all the kinks and everything's good to go, in the Dallas market, we're going to start expanding into other territories. How you can help? We're still very new. If you know any dental practices in particular, or healthcare practices at all, that are looking to bring in some more temps or want another solution for finding reliable temps, please do let us know. You can follow us on social media, and I would love to meet with anybody that's even remotely interested in working with the healthcare startup scene that can help us grow this thing to the next level. Thank you very much. Let me know if you have any questions.
We're going to now open the floor for any questions or comments. Please raise your hand high.
That sounds like a great app. What's your business model? Are they paying to be on the app, or how does that work?
So yeah, at the moment we are only charging employers, so the temps get to use the app for free. So they can go on call, work as little or as often as they like, and every time that an employer puts in a request, we upcharge. So we have our profit margins baked into that cost it takes to bring in somebody. But because we've eliminated a lot of the processes involved with traditional staffing, we can actually offer at competitive pricing, much cheaper than they can traditionally find in typical staffing agency.
Morning, Chris.
Morning.
Nice job. 2 questions. One was, it wasn't really clear who the audience was till almost the end.
Okay.
So maybe just hit that a little harder in the beginning.
Thank
And
you.
then, can you talk more about how you're going to finish out the app and include your targets in that finish? Because I heard you say we're going to get it all finished and then we're going to roll it out. Whereas I think you want those users with you early in that process to make sure it's going to work for them.
Yeah.
I wouldn't wait to.
No, absolutely. I couldn't agree more. We're building the app with Xamarin, and so we've got the web app being built as we speak, but the switch from web to native, our developer says, he's already been testing it on the back end, and all the users that are currently are beta testers, if you will. We're letting them know about this change, letting them know what's going to be taking place to make sure that everything's working smoothly when you do, in fact, make the switch.
Hi. So my question is about the hiring process that you go through, or the onboarding process that you have for your temps that you bring on board. I'm not quite clear if there's a credentialing process or some sort of verification process that goes into making sure that those temps are actually up to snuff in the medical world.
Yeah.
So can you talk a bit about that, as well as what that looks like as they make their way through, like, finding their first job?
Yeah, absolutely. So we only place, our goal is to place medical dental professionals with a license, right? So in order to be a dental assistant, a dentist, a hygienist in the state of Texas, you have to be approved by the Texas State Board of Dental Examiners, which makes it a little bit easier for us. We can go to the TSBDE's website, figure out if they've got any disciplinary action on their record, if they're their license is up to date, currently active, not expired, anything like that. So we do our own preliminary check on all the candidates as they come in before they're approved. Once we've gone through our check, we verified everything's accurate and up to date, then we essentially approve the candidate, allowing them to receive the messages and be in our active pool of applicants. But for that reason, we've been getting requests from dental practices for like front desk receptionists, for example, where that's something we can't as easily confirm or verify. And so that's why we've been reluctant to introduce it at this time. But in the near future, we might have a little more thorough vetting process on that side of things, if we decide to go that route.
This is kind of a follow-on. In the vetting process, do you intend to add an additional layer, maybe background checks, driver's license, drug use? Who pays for that? And then the second question would be, is this just kind of a lottery system? So first come, first serve, who responds to push out gets it? How do you keep people from being frustrated that they're never first to get it?
Good question. So first, to answer your first question, we are going to implement, there's APIs we can use to do the background check along with the registration process that they do, that we're absolutely going to implement here in the near future. And as far as the lottery system, at the moment, that's exactly how it works. One of our plans in our future updates is to allow employers to also specify specific criteria so that they can narrow down the pool that they're reaching out to in order to encourage people to find exactly the right temp. So if you're looking for a hygienist with 3+ years experience, coronal polishing certification, things like that, you can narrow down the applicant pool the message is getting sent to. But at the end of the day, it is still a first come, first serve process. And I didn't mention it in the presentation, but if an employer didn't like working with a particular temp, or temp didn't like working with a particular employer, they can avoid each other so that we no longer send people to places they don't want to go. But one of our things that we tell new employees that sign up, our temps, is, hey, if you're eager to find work, make sure you respond pretty quickly. That's also what helps the employers recognize that they're getting somebody at a moment's notice. We've had temp requests put out at like 9 a.m. and had it filled by 9:01. So that's unheard of in the staffing agency. And I think part of that's due to the lottery system, the way it is kind of set up.
You have a question for Matt?
Hi, good morning. Have y'all obtained your PEO license through TDLR?
So we have not, because our attorneys have basically specified that we are really a technology company and we're issuing 1099 as a way of ensuring that both the applicants and the temps are just being connected to each other. So, in a nutshell, we're actually not really a temping agency, staffing agency. It's easy to describe ourselves as such, but at the end of the day, we're merely just connecting the two employers.
How do you prevent, after the first time, the healthcare facility or the dentist just contacting the temp directly?
Well, I mean, we've kind of got an agreement set in the terms of use that we insist that the users, after they've had that initial contact with the employee, that they use our service going forward. But at the end of the day, our goal is to try to make it so cost effective that it's more beneficial for them to continue using our service through the app, because we handle the payment process and everything. So as soon as we receive payments from the doctors, pay out the temps all directly through the app. It's kind of like we could technically get your Uber driver's phone number and then call them up for a ride anytime you need it, but it's just much easier to actually use the app.
So I was just wondering, I have kind of a two-part question. So the first part is, it sounds like you already have a huge database of temps if you're filling spots already that quickly. So I was wondering how you're marketing it to both sides, and I was wondering how scalable it is. Are there really that many temps out there that are looking for these like temporary positions all the time, and like in all the industries aside from dentistry?
Well, admittedly, we don't know every single industry at the moment, but I know the healthcare vertical is extremely high demand for temporary PRN positions, as they refer to. And in fact, there's actually a trend going for more and more employees that are traditionally hired by hospitals are working the temp route because of the flexibility, and you can end up getting paid more per hour of your time working on a case-by-case basis, assuming that there's a demand for you. But that's the advantage that we have, is that there's been a substantial demand for all the employers. We actually have been marketing effectively through Indeed, Dental Post, websites like that, recruitment sites for the temps. But so far, we haven't even had to market the employer side. We've just been getting referrals, and we intend to start like a marketing campaign to recruit more employers to hire our temps. But finding the temps hasn't really been a big issue for us at the moment.
So you said you want to make it really cost effective. So what do you see as a break-even point from temp as well as from a doctor's practice perspective?
Well, typically, we're still fine-tuning exactly what the pricing structure is going to look like, but we're considering about a 15 to 20% markup for the temp's time, essentially, and that 15 to 20% includes the cost of the transaction, payment processing, all that stuff, and applicable expenses associated with bringing in that temp. So we're looking at a 15 to 20% markup.
The break-even number for
What's our break even? Well, when we're doing our financials, we're running at a pretty consistent amount. We're not looking at a very high break even. I don't think the exact amount at the moment.
I just have a quick piece of feedback that might result in a question, but do you have someone on your staff or on your team that has a staffing background? Because you have a healthcare management background and your other two founders are technical and in dental. So I'm just wondering if there's someone who is an advisor that you're working with to get this staffing component scaled up.
Good question. Our dental co-founder, dentist Harold here, has a lot of experience working with staffing agencies, and we've got connections that we've been mentors, I guess you can say, that have been assisting us, but nobody in a formal capacity. So that is something we're considering and looking for, is somebody that's eager, willing to help mentor on that professional staffing basis.
Any other questions or comments?
Who are your competitors?
We've got a couple competitors on the technical side. There's an agency up in Boston, for example, that works very similar to the way we work with the online component. But our biggest competitor, the way we see it, are traditional staffing agencies, right? And in a lot of instances, that's because doctors are typically creatures of habit in the sense that they have a staffing agency or a couple staffing agencies that they've used for 10, 15, 20 plus years. So getting them to consider using a new service, for example, that's the biggest obstacle to overcome. But when you can see the immediacy in which we can get temp requests filled and then the decreased cost of what they're used to paying, it makes it a lot easier to convince some of these employers to at least give us a try. And because there's no commitment or anything, you pay per request, and you only pay for a request if it's filled. It's a very low-risk scenario for the employers. But at the moment, the traditional staffing agencies are our biggest competitor, the way that we see it.
We have time for 2 more questions.
Hey, so just as the functionality of like, I don't want to work with this person again, just swipe left.
That's a good idea. I like it. All right, thank you very much for your time.
All right, we have one more question for you. What can the community do for you?
As I mentioned before, following us on social media would be very helpful. We're trying to get the word out, build reputability in the community that we are a legitimate choice for a lot of these employers. If you know anybody that's either a temp looking for work or leaving to a full-time employee that's looking to pick up shifts occasionally, send them our way. And then ultimately, any connections or anybody you think is interesting for me to meet, I'm happy to do so. So certainly appreciate the introduction.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
All right, everybody, so while we get set up, I just want to remind you guys that we are very active on social media. Please join us in the conversation. We're checking out your tweets and your Facebook comments and likes, and we've got the social handles for each of the presenters up here on this board to my left. And we also have an events board over by the elevator where you can write down any events that are coming up that you want to share with the community, give as much detail or as little detail as you need, and it looks like we're ready to go. So let's keep up the tradition. Can everybody please stand up and give HealthNextGen a big round of applause.
For the opportunity to present today. I'm Venkatesh Hariharan. Hello. And I'm the co-founder of HealthNextGen. Now, healthcare is not getting any cheaper. We all know that, right? This is a blog from Wall Street Journal on the 25th of August. Let's focus on the good news. The good news is it's going down as a percentage of GDP. Now, that's because there was a set of healthcare reforms as part of Obamacare, what was launched out. And one of it was launching of accountable care organizations, where hospitals and set of physicians groups come together and be responsible for that population and outcomes at a lower cost. And that's where Adam comes in. There is a whole lot of ACOs being formed. Adam is an executive director of Metro ACO, and he's worried. He should be. Well, that's because he is 15% below his savings target, and he's going to get penalized instead of getting a bonus from the shared savings plan. Now, wow. He did a little bit on his data. There are two things going on. Number one, his preventable hospitalization has gone up by 10%, which is one of his quality measures and costs money, big money. And two is the drug utilization cost. And drug utilization cost would mean effective drugs don't do trial and error, have a pinpoint accuracy. And that's a national problem. It costs our healthcare system over $160 billion. That's big money. Sorry about that. Now, most ACOs do invest in what we call an enterprise clinical data warehouse. Now, but there are only three problems to it. One, it does not provide care management team anything at the point of care. Physicians get nothing. When the patient is in front of them, no inputs of what's happening to him or her. Two, it's based on a manual clinical data research. So they expect a set of clinical personnel to actually research on the data and figure out what to do. And three, there is a risk stratification tool provided by even Medicare, and that's by broad brush based on if somebody had CHF, cardio, then they need to be put on care management. It's so broad. It's nothing personalized about it, so it's ineffective. And that's where we come in. HealthNextGen does clinical machine learning. So what it essentially means is we learn from millions of people. And it's personalized. So I'm different than Suresh, my co-founder, sitting to me. We are two different individuals. We have, even for the same disease, we have two different line of treatments. We provide real-time input for the physician at the point of care. There's no manual effort involved. It's automatic. The physician knows, okay, this person is at risk for for an hospitalization event at the point of care. The physician knows what drugs are more effective on this particular patient. And the best part, what I like about it, is active learning. If the physician does not agree with it, it does not pull back the same recommendation again. So it learns by itself. Okay. Now this is what a physician sees. Our systems are integrated to the physicians at the EMR, physicians or care management personnel. And we provide, one of it, what we provide is, okay, we provide a crisis indicator. This example of is of a myasthenia gravis patient, and this provides a crisis in 3 months. This patient is going to come to the hospital. He's going to have a crisis situation. And we provide evidences of similar patient. And so the care management personnel can see why that recommendation is like that. It gives a history of top 10 patients similar to this at the point of care. And for care management personnel, again, we provide a drug recommendation, which is what is a standard drug, which is indicated in red, and what is our tool recommended for drugs for this patient, what will work better, provides efficacy, and it also provides a cost differential. and physicians can then choose what line of treatment to go. And for the ACOs, we provide risk indicators of who are the top population at high risk. This is at a rolled up level. The market opportunity is a growing market. It's going from $600 to $2.5 billion by 2025. From a competition perspective, we are unique from a drug prediction response, and anything what we do is clinically validated. From a business model perspective, we are targeting the ACOs at this point, but we can go to the larger hospital system and also the self-funded employers. We are expected to do $30 million over 5 years, growing at a 240% CAGR. Okay, Traction, we were formed in January 2016. We have one customer. In fact, we are doing the announcement today. And we have 2 partners. We have processed over 1.5 million data points. And our team,
Any questions or feedback?
yes.
That's very interesting, but very data intensive. So I might need to ask a couple of basic questions. So when you say that you're looking at lots of individual data, could you describe how you're pulling that, how far back in time it goes, how you correlate that to the patient, particularly if they keep changing provider? And what if the patient has not yet been in the system? How do you deal with that discrepancy?
Several different parts of the question. Let me address the first part of the question. We have a partner who have access to 63 million clinical data points, and we are going by conditions. And what we process is all clinical data. There's a de-identified clinical data tracked over at least 6 years. Okay. The second part of the question is, if the patient is across different providers. There is a reason why we are targeting ACOs, because ACOs are responsible for an integrated system where they are responsible for both the hospital as well as outpatient.
A follow-up question about that is, when you say clinical data, are you looking at clinical research as well?
Yes. So our team, and I'll go back to that. Sorry. Oops. Go back to the team. So our team, we have research personnel. Santosh is, as you will see, he's a researcher at University of Toronto. And in fact, we also have a couple of research partnerships. That's how we do it. So this cannot be done without research. So we do research. It's data research plus clinical research come together, and that's how we work, condition by condition. And our target is to go for top 5 conditions costing the most amount of money for healthcare. Yes.
If I were to be standing with you in an elevator and I said to you, you have 30 seconds to tell me what it is that your company does, what would you say?
Well, we predict your patient outcome, which improves your patient's health, as well as saves you 15% in your bottom line, and enabling you to make 10% more from your shared savings plan.
As you can tell, I have a healthcare background. On the administration side. Yep. So I'm curious about how your business model is, what you're doing, but also I'm curious if you're completely focused on the reduction of pharmaceutical costs, or are there other ways that you are also saving providers outlay?
So it's a big space. There are plenty of issues in healthcare, and our focus is only on 2 areas. Number one is on risk stratification for the high-risk patient, so that you can enable a care coordination or an early intervention model. Okay, number one. Number two is drug utilization. Now, drug utilization, this is not for your regular diabetes or hypertension issues. Those drugs are cheap. The example what I showed was a myasthenia gravis patient, and each of those drugs, the negotiated price costs $10,000, and you do at least 6 a year. You're talking about $80,000 to $100,000 combined, all in. So those are big decisions what physicians make. And they need they need to know that drug is going to work, or have a good chance it's going to work before they do that. And that's where all this comes in.
Any other questions?
The business model, the way, I'm sorry, I didn't answer one part of the question. The business model is, we are doing a subscription-based model, condition-based. We are doing anywhere from $2 per month per patient, and to a larger patient volume to $1. So we want to go subscription-based, enable that, and have more doctors refer to the system before they actually prescribe, and for care management.
So I don't have a healthcare background. So
That's why I started with healthcare cost.
But I think that that's a good point. Trying to understand who we are, who you're talking to, just to give us a bit of background is great. My 2-second feedback on your presentation was that you were talking to your slides more than you were talking to the audience. So as the audience, I would want more from you, both in background as well as an eye contact, time and attention.
Absolutely.
But on that note, I felt that it took you a bit long to actually get to what you were talking about. So I would say just figure out how to integrate that a bit faster into what you're saying.
Yeah, good one, Deborah. In fact, I was trying to explain my wife, my business model. And I'll be honest. And she has no healthcare background. She's a CPA. She only understands numbers. So that's where you see I started with the numbers. Because if I can't explain my wife, I cannot explain anybody what I'm doing. Simple. So I understand it does take time, but I had to come from that top down so that on a broad audience, I can communicate with that message what they understand instead of going completely clinical and scientific of what we are doing.
Hi. Regarding the same point that she said, I really enjoyed the moment when you gave us the 30-second pitch. It was really straightforward because it mentioned the pain points. And I believe that if you start from that point and then go into the numbers, that'll be really good. Because it gets you to put in the feet of the person that's gonna use this.
Right, so the way I said it, I've been a sales guy before. I used to be an associate partner at Accenture. There's 2 types of pitches. This what I'm doing is to a broad audience whom I don't know the background about. Second is a sales pitch. The sales pitch is what you exactly. That's exactly what I do on a sales pitch. On a broad audience whom I don't know where they're coming from, I want to talk their language. That was my intent. But thank you, I appreciate the feedback.
Any other questions or feedback? All right, last question. What can the community do for you?
Couple of things. It's a big question. One is, if you know any ACOs looking for solutions like this, we're certainly looking for those kind of solutions.
What is an ACO?
Accountable care organizations.
Like who? What does that mean?
So, remember the story I started with Obamacare model? The Obamacare, as part of Obamacare in 2011, there was a series of reforms going on until 2019. And ACO started forming in 2011, and it's growing exponentially. Essentially what is happening is a set of hospitals, 5 hospitals coming together, and 300 physicians coming together. They're responsible for the patient together, and they form an ACO. And what's happening in the industry is more ACOs are getting acquired. So that's even more complicated. So ACOs are getting bigger and bigger, responsible for larger populations. I'm sorry? Forward Health Partners, Catalyst Health, and in North Texas, just here in the Dallas area, there are 5 of them.
One more round of applause, please.
All right, everybody, thank you so much for coming out to 1 Million Cups. One more reminder, we have the 1MC app. Download it in the App Store, give feedback to the presenters. And the deck is having a We Dallas event this Thursday, so check it out. And y'all have a good day.